Welcome to the History in Focus channel. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss more videos like this one. Haji Ali, the Egyptian performer nicknamed the Human Fountain, gained fame for precisely regurgitating liquids. In his performances, he would spit water in strong controlled jets as if he were a living faucet. In one of his most famous acts, Haji Ali would drink water, then kerosene, set the stage on fire, and extinguish the flames by regurgitating water, surprising the audience like a true performing firefighter. Haji Ali also regurgitated live fish after swallowing entire aquariums, amazing the audience with a mastery of his stomach that seemed to defy all natural laws of biology. Anna Heining Swan Bates, born in Canada in 1846, grew to over 7 feet tall and became one of the tallest women in history. She was an attraction at fairs alongside short-statured artists. In this photo from the 1870s, we see Anna with her mother and father. Despite the height difference, her family always supported her. They frequently accompanied her on trips and public appearances. Miran Dejo impressed doctors and scientists by allowing swords to pass through his body without causing pain or bleeding. His performances were publicly examined in European hospitals. He claimed his abilities came from spiritual forces. However, during an extreme experiment, he swallowed a needle that pierced his internal organs. He died days later in 1948, sealing his tragic end. Grady Stiles Jr. was born in 1937 with ectrodactyly, a condition that made his hands and feet resemble claws. From a young age, he was exhibited in circuses as the Lobster Boy, drawing curious glances. The deformity passed from father to son, and Grady was part of a long circus lineage. Despite his fame, he couldn't walk and grew up using his arms to crawl through daily life. Off the stage, Grady got involved in fights and was accused of killing his daughter's fiancé. He died in 1992, murdered by a man hired by his own wife. His life ended in scandal and tragedy. Pascual Piñon became famous in the United States by displaying a large tumor on his head as if it were a second face. To enhance the effect, he would glue a wax prosthesis resembling a face onto the lump. Billed as a rare medical case, he traveled with the circus for years. After retiring, the prosthesis was removed and the tumor was excised. Piñon spent his last years in Texas, away from the spotlight. Martin Lorello amazed crowds by turning his head nearly 180 degrees backward, like an owl. He performed at Sam Wagner's freak shows and became a standout in Coney Island in the 1930s. His extremely flexible neck became legendary on stage. Lorello claimed he had trained the movement for years. He was able to drink, smoke, and even talk with his face completely turned backward. Millie and Christine McCoy were African-American Siamese twins, born enslaved and exhibited as babies. After being freed, they sang and spoke multiple languages, becoming famous artists. Ethel Granger became known for having the smallest waist in history, at only 13 inches. She wore a corset day and night and was exhibited at events and attractions as a true phenomenon. Her husband, William Granger, had an obsession with thin waists and forced Ethel to wear corsets for long periods. Over time, her silhouette transformed into an uncommon and controversial visual standard. Her husband's obsession with body modification led Ethel to receive various facial and body piercings. She accepted the process as part of her radical transformation and alternative lifestyle. Lalu was born with a parasitic twin attached to his chest, without a brain but with functional limbs and genitals. The duo caused amazement, and the brother was dressed as a girl to increase the impact. Lalu's control over the movements of the twin was so precise that many believed it was alive. His image became a sensation on postcards and tabloids of the 19th century, feeding bizarre rumors. Frank Lentini was born in Sicily with 3 legs, 4 feet, and 2 genitals due to a parasitic twin that did not develop. His rare condition caught the attention of doctors and circuses as a child. From a young age, Frank displayed surprising agility with his 3rd leg. He was educated in special schools and, unlike many of his time, spoke proudly of his unusual condition. He became a star in shows in the United States and traveled the world with his act. He was known for his charisma and sense of humor, saying that with 3 legs, he never fought for a seat on the bus. Josephine Myrtle Corbin was born in 1868 with a rare condition: 4 legs, 2 pelvises, and 2 reproductive systems. 2 of the legs, weaker, were immobile. As a child, she was taken to P.T. Barnum's Circus. At the age of 14, already known as the Four-Legged Woman, she began performing at shows in the United States. Her unusual body attracted crowds and made headlines in the newspapers of the time. She left the stage at the age of 19 and married Dr. Clinton Bicknell. She had 4 children and lived quietly until her death in 1928 at the age of 60, from causes never officially recorded. Ella Harper was born with a rare knee condition called genu recurvatum, which caused her legs to bend backward. Because of this, she moved better on her hands and could hardly stand with her legs straight. Due to the way she moved, Ella became known as the Camel Girl. She became an attraction in the United States, where her image appeared on posters, cards, and circus advertisements of the time. Even earning $200 per week, Ella Harper left the circus. She married, had a daughter, and lived quietly until 1921, when she died at the age of 51, away from the spotlight and the stage. Chang and Eng Bunker were born joined at the chest in 1811 in the region of Siam. They were taken to the United States, where they became internationally known and gave rise to the term Siamese twins. They married 2 sisters and had 21 children. They alternated weeks in each house, organizing their lives in shifts. They managed farms and became wealthy before dying just 3 hours apart. Presented as the Ohio Bigfoot Girl, Fannie Mills drew attention due to Milroy's disease, which caused chronic lymphedema. Her legs and feet could reach more than 17 inches wide. During public exhibitions, she wore custom-made shoes and posed with dresses that accentuated her legs. The deformity did not affect her intelligence, and she responded with humor to the audience's questions. Fannie toured several times across the United States at the end of the 19th century. Despite the sensationalism, she was admired for her elegance, patience, and her calm demeanor in the face of others' curiosity. Felix Verley became known for stretching the skin on his arms and neck in an impressive manner. His condition was caused by Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a rare connective tissue disorder. On stage, Felix was billed as the Elastic Man and pulled his face skin as if it were rubber. His skill amazed audiences and inspired other performers with the same diagnosis. Jack Earl stood over 7 feet, 6 inches tall due to acromegalic gigantism. He toured with Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus for 14 years, becoming one of the most photographed figures of the time. Despite his condition, he was known for his good humor and talent as an actor. After leaving the circus, Jack became a salesman and poet, remembered for his enormous boots and always kind demeanor with fans. An extraordinary woman supported a whole piano with her chest, while a pianist played, demonstrating complete body control. This unusual feat was recorded around 1920. Sylvia Portis, known as the Elephant Girl, is seen smiling as she displays her deformed feet caused by elephantiasis. Her unusual appearance made her a star attraction in American circuses during the 40s. Before the audience, Sylvia explained that her right foot was larger than her left and said with faith, "It's God's will, and there's nothing I can do about it." The audience listened to her in silence. Patricia Zerm, or Lady Patricia, performs next to her target shield before beginning her sword-swallowing act. She was one of the few women of the time to master this art with perfection. During the height of the show, Lady Patricia swallows a sharp-tipped sword. The act was so precise that she often performed with her eyes closed to demonstrate complete trust in her own body. The strongman Buddy Sugru uses only his teeth to lift singer Bridie Gallagher, seated in a chair at the London Palladium in 1959, He also became famous for pulling double-decker buses with his teeth. In another demonstration of his extraordinary strength, Buddy holds a man seated in a chair, using only his head and neck. His feats made him a living legend in British pubs and fairs in the 50s. Fedor Jevtichev was born in Russia in 1868 with hypertrichosis, a condition that covered his body with hair. He inherited his father's appearance and became known in shows as the famous Dog Boy. Still a child, Fedor was taken by his father to perform at European fairs. After his father's death, he was exhibited alone, sparking curiosity and being billed as a domesticated savage. At the age of 14, he was already an attraction in the United States, hired by P.T. Barnum. Despite his unusual appearance, Fedor spoke several languages and tried to show that he was more than just a strange face. Daisy and Violet Hilton, conjoined at the hip since birth, were sold as babies and forced to perform in circuses. At 3 years old, they were already playing instruments and dancing for the public in the United States. Over time, the sisters gained worldwide fame, singing and performing in vaudevilles and musicals. They were well trained, but exploited by their tutors. They fought for freedom and eventually gained legal autonomy. Johnny Eck was born with sacral agenesis, a condition that left him without the lower part of his body. Still, he became an acrobat, illusionist, and circus star, famous for walking using only his hands. He appeared in the film Freaks and in several productions, such as Tarzan movies, where he portrayed a bird-like creature. He was also a pianist, painter, and advocate for the inclusion of people with disabilities. Grace McDaniels suffered from the rare Sturge-Weber syndrome and gained notoriety after winning in 1935 a contest that declared her the ugliest woman in the world. She was presented as the mule-faced woman. She raised her son Elmer alone while traveling across the United States in performances. She never spoke publicly by choice to preserve her dignity and protect the bond with her only child. Waino and Plutano were dwarf brothers with impressive strength, promoted as savages from Borneo. They were described as primitive and fought with big men to entertain paying crowds. Born in Ohio but billed as coming from Borneo, the brothers embodied a stereotype created for the circus: exotic savages with tremendous strength. The staged portrayal increased ticket sales and mystery. Josephine Joseph became famous for displaying a visually divided body, one side with masculine features, the other with feminine appearance. This unique look earned her a role in the film Freaks. Prince Randian, known as the human caterpillar, was born without arms or legs, but learned to write, shave, and light cigarettes on his own. He was one of the most acclaimed performers in Barnum's Circus. In this scene from the film Freaks, we see Randian in action, lighting a cigarette with a match using only his mouth. His skill impressed the audience and helped legitimize his international fame. In this rare photo, Prince Randian appears alongside his equally notable colleague, Pete Terhune. They both performed together at fairs and developed a friendship based on humor and overcoming challenges. Lucia Zarate, the shortest woman ever recorded, measured around 20 inches and weighed just over 4 pounds. She gained worldwide fame performing in circuses in the United States and Europe. Here, Lucia poses next to a chair to highlight her size. Unfortunately, she tragically died in 1890 from hypothermia after her circus train got stuck in the snow in the Sierra Nevada mountains. George and Willie Muse were born in the United States with albinism and long hair. They were taken by talent hunters and exhibited as jungle cannibals in Algie Barnes's circus in the 1920s. Nicknamed Eco and Eco, they were said to come from Ecuador and were portrayed as wild brothers. Postcards, dolls, and souvenirs were mass-produced as part of the freak show to attract more profit. For decades, the brothers performed in the United States and Europe. Despite the exploitation, they were later recognized as talented musicians and symbols of black resistance. Stefan Bebrowski was nicknamed Lionel because he resembled a lion. His body was covered with 30 centimeters of hair. His mother said it was a punishment for seeing a lion during her pregnancy. Lionel performed at Madison Square Garden and Barnum's Circus. Offstage, he was gentle, elegant, and fluent in 5 languages. He spent his last years away from the circus, in peace, in Germany. The Carlson sisters, known as the Wrestling Fat Girls, staged boxing matches for paying audiences. At the time, obesity was rare, making their bodies a source of fascination and attraction. In addition to theatrical duels, the Carlson sisters became a sensation at traveling fairs, where they played with the stereotype of giant twins and posed with dwarfs to accentuate the contrast. At the age of 12, Isaac Sprague began losing weight rapidly for no medical reason. Even eating normally, his body wasted away. As an adult, he weighed about 44 pounds and stood over 5 feet. Despite his extreme condition, Isaac married Tamar and had 3 healthy children. He worked in Barnum's circuses, where he wore tight clothes that emphasized his skeletal appearance and generated awe. Ella and Elvira Salon became known as the Two-Headed Woman in the late 19th century. Siamese twins, they shocked audiences in shows and postcards with their unique body. In the late 19th century, an artist known as the Raja with a second face intrigued the public. Many believed he came from the East and that his second face had mystical powers. Giacomo and Giovanni Tocci were born in Italy around 1877, conjoined at the torso, with 2 hearts and 2 stomachs, but only 1 pair of legs. They became famous as the Two-Headed Twins. Known as the Eater of Impossible Things, this performer presented himself chewing objects like gramophone discs and light bulbs, claiming that his stomach was stronger than any tooth. A man tests his endurance to the extreme by lying on the ground with a stone on his chest, while 2 assistants attempt to break it with sledgehammers. This type of stunt was common in fairs during the 40s. Psalm, called the world's elastic wonder, amazed audiences with extreme contortions. In this photo, he appears balanced inside a flower vase in one of his favorite poses. The strongman Jay Roliano impresses by holding the weight of a Citroen car on his chest, lying under a cart. The demonstration took place at the Tillings Yard courtyard around 1932. A circus trainer takes part in a risky act by allowing an elephant to place its foot on his head. The impressive display of trust was recorded around 1938. Charles Stratton was born in 1838 with dwarfism and measured only 2 feet and 1 inch. At the age of 5, he was discovered by P.T. Barnum and became a global celebrity as General Tom Thumb, with lavish costumes and trained speech. Barnum taught Tom to sing, dance, and make speeches. He performed for Queen Victoria, Abraham Lincoln, and Napoleon III, traveling the world on tours that filled theaters and fascinated audiences wherever he went. In 1875, General Tom Thumb posed in uniform on top of a British soldier's hand. The comedic scene became a symbol of the show, with him representing elegance, intelligence, and refined humor. Tom Thumb married Lavinia Warren in 1863 in a grand wedding covered by the newspapers. He died at the age of 45, hailed as the most famous dwarf of the 19th century and a star of modern circuses. Schlitzie became known in the United States as Pinhead because of microcephaly. He wore women's clothing, spoke little, and charmed the audience with his childlike demeanor and innocent gaze. He had an indefinite age and lived most of his life under the care of fellow circus performers who treated him as a son. He was a beloved figure among the artists and loved interacting with the public, always smiling and playful. He was immortalized in the film Freaks, 1932, directed by Todd Browning, which used real performers with disabilities. Schlitzie's performance sparked controversy but became an icon in the history of fringe cinema. Annie Jones began performing with P.T. Barnum as a child. She became known as the Bearded Woman and one of the circus's most famous attractions, as well as a spokeswoman for the Congress of Freaks. Unlike other attractions, Annie sought respect and elegance in her appearances. Always well-dressed, she advocated for the right of people with deformities to be treated with dignity and humanity. Her image appeared on posters in several languages. She toured Europe and the United States, celebrated not only for her beard, but for her firm stance, intelligence, and commanding presence on stage. Alice Doherty was born with a rare condition that would mark her image for life. Her face, completely covered in hair, made her one of the most seen attractions in American circuits in the 19th century. She began performing at the age of 2 under the name Woolly Girl, taken by her mother. A large sign with her name dominated the entrance of the shows and attracted lines of curious onlookers to see her up close. Despite her success on stage, Alice was shy and discreet. When she reached adulthood, she decided to withdraw from public life and spent her last years in silence, away from the eyes of the public and the press. James Bowen was born without legs in Ohio in 1844, but he amazed the public with jumps, acrobatics, and complex spins. His agile and daring movements made him one of the most admired artists in the American circus. With phocomelia, a condition known as seal limbs, Bowen had a long and respected career. He married, had children, and lived to the age of 79, becoming a symbol of overcoming obstacles both on stage and in his personal life. In 1933, an American acrobat stunned the public by suspending herself in the air using only her teeth, a risky technique that required jaw strength and total body control. In this 1960 photo, we see a German circus performer accomplishing an impressive feat. Suspended more than 656 feet high, she dances in the air, tethered only by her hair to an industrial crane. Crowell Farini was brought from Laos in 1885 and exhibited by P.T. Barnum as a missing link. Furry and highly flexible, her image was used as supposed evidence of a connection between humans and monkeys. With long hair and a thick beard, Crowell Farini was promoted as a wild woman found in the forest. Her unusual appearance made her one of the most profitable attractions of the show. In 1930, in Florida, the acrobats of the Otaris family performed an impressive feat. They crossed a tightrope upside down while spectators watched from a nearby rooftop. Joseph Merrick was born in 1862 in the English city of Leicester. As severe deformities advanced on his face and body caused by rare diseases, he became known as the feared Elephant Man. At the age of 16, Joseph Merrick was kicked out of his home after being abused by his father and rejected by his stepmother. He began living on the streets and survived by performing at fairs and circuses as a live and bizarre attraction. In 1884, he was brought to Tom Norman's Freak Show in London. Despite his shocking appearance, Joseph was kind, intelligent, read poetry, and dreamed only of being treated with compassion and dignity. Wang, a Chinese peasant, became famous for having a large keratin horn growing on his head. The natural protrusion drew worldwide attention and earned him the nickname the Human Unicorn. Dressed in feathers and wearing large glasses, Minnie Woolsey was called Coo-Coo, the Bird Girl. Her exotic look and restless behavior made her a striking presence in early 20th century circuses. Minnie was born with Seckle syndrome, which affects growth, causes microcephaly, and alters facial features. Her appearance was described as bird-like, reinforcing her nickname in the circus. She appeared in the film Freaks, where she danced cheerfully on a table. Despite her public exposure, her whereabouts after the 1940s remain uncertain, and her true story is still shrouded in mystery. Madame Gustica was exhibited in circuses for using lip discs that elongated her mouth. In one of her performances, a woman balanced a cup on the plate as part of the spectacle for the audience. In other exhibitions, Gustica smoked a pipe, supported between the discs, that deformed her lip. She was presented as exotic and wild, reinforcing stereotypes that attracted the audience's curiosity. Natalia and Aurora Jaramillo from New Mexico had dwarfism and performed in circuses. They wore sweaters with swastikas, a symbol that at the time was not associated with Nazism, but with indigenous traditions. The twins, Pip and Flip, were born with microcephaly and were presented as twins from Yucatan, although they were from the United States. Their unusual appearance led them to perform in many circuses in the 1930s. They appeared in the film Freaks and became known for their matching outfits and charismatic personalities. Despite their condition, they were always portrayed as cheerful and beloved by the cast. Unzi was born in New Zealand and from an early age traveled with Barnum and Bailey Circus through the United States and Europe. Albino with voluminous afro hair, he was promoted as the amazing Aboriginal Australian. The audience believed Unzi was an albino Aborigine worshipped as a tribal god. The circus reinforced the legend with posters showing him living among kangaroos and natives in primitive conditions. Artoria Gibbons tattooed almost her entire body with religious, patriotic, and biblical scenes. She started in the 1920s and became an attraction in circuses like Ringling Brawns, being called the Illustrated Woman. She said her tattoos were a tribute to God and the country. Her appearance shocked the public of the time, who paid to see her up close, making her one of the most remarkable artists of the genre. Miss Rosina, also known as Mermaida or Miss Tiny, was born without arms, but traveled Europe making crochet with her feet and charming audiences with her skill, elegance, and refined humor. Maximo and Bartola, siblings with microcephaly, were exhibited as Aztec children starting in 1867. Traveling through Europe and the U.S., they met President Millard Fillmore and were forced to marry. Frances O'Connor was born without arms in 1914, but impressed by writing, eating, applying makeup, and even knitting with her feet. She starred in the classic Freaks and became one of the most remarkable attractions in circuses. Samuel Parks, known as Fearless Frog Boy, was of short stature with atrophied limbs. He became famous at 19 when he started performing only seated, charging admission for those who wanted to see him up close. Horace Riddler, also known as the Great Omi or the Zebra Man, was a British aristocrat who tattooed his entire body with stripes and wore necklaces and adornments to appear as an exotic tribal creature. He claimed to have been captured by a tribe and forced into transformation, which was part of the show. In reality, he paid to have his body tattooed as a strategy to attract fame and money. A British couple performed a bizarre act in Boston, Lincolnshire. The wife pretended to be electrocuted live in an adapted electric chair, drawing both laughter and scares from the audience in 1957. Bearman was a dwarf performer who presented himself on all fours, imitating a bear, an attraction that became popular for his appearance and behavior. He lived in a secluded tent and growled at the audience. Ruth Berry, known as Mignon, meaning cute in French, was born with phocomelia in all four limbs, which gave her a flipper-like appearance. She was presented as the Penguin Girl. Artist Millie Kays swallowed a 12-foot python's head at the counter of a hotel in Bradford. She used this bold act as her signature in pubs, blending shock and humor in each performance. Johanna Pauline Musters, known as Princess Pauline, was a Dutch artist who measured 17 inches tall and weighed just over 8 pounds. She was so light that her manager would balance her in the palm of his hand. Stanislaus Berendt was born without arms, but became famous as Silo, the Seal Man. Agile and charismatic, he used his feet to perform tasks with surprising precision, such as smoking cigars and painting. Dressed in colorful costumes and always smiling, Silo appeared in posters sawing wood with his feet or entertaining the audience with skill tricks. He was a star attraction among performers with disabilities. Silas Whaley became known as the Man Without a Stomach for his ability to retract his abdomen to such an extreme that his ribcage was visible. He shocked the public at the Greenbrier Valley Fair in the 1930s. Frida Pushnik was born without arms or legs, but amazed the public by using her mouth to comb her hair, write, and even sew. She became a star of Ripley's Believe It or Not in the 1930s. George Anger, known as the Barnum and Bailey Giant, contrasts with Click Co, the small African artist nicknamed Pygmy. The duo captivated the audience with performances that explored physical exaggeration. Doctors examined performers from Bertram Mills's Freak Show in 1935. On the stretcher is the Giraffe Neck Woman, famous for wearing numerous metal rings that stretched her spine to extremes. Here, we see a backstage scene from the Flea Circus at Coney Island. An obese woman next to a long-haired albino, both exhibited as typical attractions of the early 20th century. The American showman and entrepreneur P.T. Barnum deceived crowds by showcasing the Fiji mermaid. The creature, made from a monkey's torso sewn to the tail of a fish, was proof of mermaids existing in Fiji's waters. The Congress of Freaks was one of the biggest attractions of the Ringling Brothers in the 1920s. It gathered performers with rare deformities in a collective show that mixed curiosity, spectacle, and exploitation. Director Todd Browning poses next to real disabled performers who appeared in Freaks, a 1932 film that shocked Hollywood and became a cult classic for its authentic and controversial cast.